Okay, my fellow Earthlings, welcome to this cityscape painting in an Impressionist way. As you can see here, I start on my usual small canvas here with a wash. I paint first. I do 2 layers of gesso over linen canvas. And then I use a wash of just turpentine and some raw umber that I just wash over it to get some kind of a shadow thing. It's almost like the darkness is there already. I just need to start focusing on filling in the light first. This painting is one I did back in 2011, and it was actually one of the first videos I posted on YouTube. I used some trance music in this originally, and it's kind of noisy, but I thought it was kind of a nice painting tutorial, so I decided to remove that music and make one with only me talking about painting and stuff like that. So as you can see, I just start to add in some. I do it from a photo, and I just start to add in the lines and stuff in the buildings, quite roughly. As you can see, this is going to be a 1-hour video, so it's going to be a lot of talking. Maybe I take a pause once in a while, take a sip of my coffee. Here you can see I just start to add in the light areas, as I say. I basically use that pencil as someone would use a pen or charcoal or whatever. I use gravure, I use, you see here, I just gravure, I just very easily just add in the different tones. There, I think there's a wall there. I also think I'm going to make a very short time lapse of this video to kind of show it a little bit better, maybe. It's kind of corny. We call it kornette in Norway. It's kind of when you see the corners of the pixels. So you can see the video is a little bit pixelated. It is because it was actually a square video originally, and I just focused in kind of closer so you can actually see more what I'm doing. Now, I love to do brushwork. Brushwork is basically, I mean, if I should say love of my life, it wouldn't really be an exaggeration. It is what gives me the slow dopamine, the slow flow, the thing that kind of balances out my brain, and just see how things grow between my fingers, basically. It is an amazing process to be in, and I would encourage everyone to start doing some sort of creative work. Painting is a great way to do it. Playing music and stuff also. The problem with it is that if you can't do it, like I had a lot of pain, and I had to have a double hip replacement in 2019, and I had so much pain for so long that I wasn't really able to connect to my paintings in a good way anymore, and it actually became painful, and I basically feared it in a way because I couldn't really connect on that deeper level. So it's very important to lead a healthy life so you can actually more easily go into the flow. I was actually just listening to a podcast of a guy who is talking about the dopamine receptors and how dopamine works in the brain. And the problems today is that we tend to, even I do that, I listen to stuff, I even listened to Trump rallies while I was painting, And in the end, I started to get so stressed by all this noise that I also lost basically that beautiful feeling you get from painting. The best thing is silence, or some some music that you really like. I also have listened to audiobooks when I'm painting, but that can also bring you out of the flow. So the best thing is silence or music. I prefer piano music or music I like. It can be trance music, like I had in this original tutorial, which you actually find on my second and third actually YouTube channel. I'm building up more than one YouTube channel because I lost one in 2020. Actually, the 9th of January, my former old channel was hacked, and then some people started to post a lot of junk on it from Japan, and probably earned some money on it, and they stole it. So if you can give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment and share it with your friends, I would really appreciate that. Highly appreciate that. You can also go to Patreon and sign up for $1 or $5 if you want to support my work. It would make me really happy if you do. But watching and giving thumbs up is also a very good way to give back. So anyway, as you can see here, you can see that how I just... What I do when I'm painting is kind of strange because I don't really know what I'm doing. I haven't learned to paint from anyone. I've learned from art history, of course. As I say, all my painting heroes are basically dead. I do have some favorites that are still alive, but usually when I learn to paint, I go back to the Impressionist, I go back to Rembrandt, I go back to Vermeer. I go back to the things that are basically the best. If you want to learn how to paint, you just have to start copying drawings by Leonardo da Vinci or some of the great artists in the world. You just copy some drawings, or also copy paintings can be very, very good way to do it. That's actually a thing I'm gonna do now. I have several projects coming up. One of them is called The Human Condition, where I'm gonna tackle all the worst and best things in humanity with portraits and with paintings from wars and porn and beautiful things. I mean, from all kinds of topics I'm gonna do paintings, and also gonna write a book called The Human Condition, or that's actually my basic title of it. And I'm also gonna do my art of painting, like from the painting of Vermeer, called The Art of Painting. There's also a painting I'm gonna not copy, but I'm gonna do a rendition of, to both explain my thoughts about how he was thinking, and also gonna do some Rembrandts and other paintings that I find some of the best paintings in the world. And I'm not going to try to copy them, because I'm not going to use a projector or anything like that. I'm just going to it's almost like, you know, when Beethoven wrote the Moonlight Sonata, I mean, every time another pianist are playing that music, he's playing it in his subjective way. And that is actually the whole point. You can actually take a painting from a great artist and do a rendition or a copy or whatever you choose to call it, and make it your own. The same way as a pianist are making Beethoven his own, or Mozart, or Rachmaninoff, or whatever person you choose to copy or listen to, or as a pianist play and stuff. So you have to make it your own. I've seen a lot of very good drawers and very good artists who are really good, but the thing I notice when people are way too classically schooled is they tend to lose a very important subjective part. Of course, they are technically way better than me. There is no doubt about that. I have no problem saying it because it's true. And truth is extremely important to me, both as a human being and as an artist. But some of them lack the subjective touch that you see in the classics like Rembrandt, all the brushwork, and you see Turner's paintings, you see his overpaint and all the textures and how he has been fighting with the brush, and he used his fingers, he used nails. There was actually, they were talking about him in his time, how dirty he was, and was always filled up with paint, and was sitting in cafes drinking and stuff like that. You know, when they found him, when he died, there was a lot of paintings that was basically wet and rotting and stuff like that in his studio. It was a very sad story, actually. Anyway, back to this. As you can see now, what I do is just, I look at the photo and I just pick up piece by piece. It almost like I'm building like Lego. In a way, I just try to see into the future every single brushstroke. And in this painting it's actually very important because I only do one layer in this painting. This is just totally impressionist, only one layer. And to let it become a relatively good painting, or good impressionist painting, you have to have a certain amount of precision. And that is what I'm basically trying to do here. Sooner or later I'm gonna lose my thread and start repeating myself, but I hope you forgive me, because now I can use the time here to what should I say? Well, I can say this: I use Old Holland paint. I usually use that. I also use some Winsor Newton, and actually also Michael Harding. I think those three paints are probably some of the best. I use only as a medium, I only use turp and some linseed oil, cooked linseed oil. I mix it like 30% linseed oil and 70% turp. And I just have it in a cup on my palette, and I just dip the brush into it, and then I dry off the paint, and I grab a new set of colors. I say grab because that is basically what I do. When I do brushwork, I try to mix. I don't mix I grab with a pencil, with a brush, I grab the different, maybe red and yellow and some white, and maybe even some blue. And when I put a brush stroke on the surface, they mix like a rainbow. So the paint is actually mixed on the surface. I don't, when I have put my brush into that cup and I have taken away some of the paint, some of the medium will of course stay in the brush, still be in the brush, and that is then, but I don't put the brush back into the cup and add more medium into these colors. So in a way I'm painting very dry, but basically by accident I'm mixing over time it get mixed into the medium, get mixed into the colors. And I do here also over paints and stuff. But as you can see, I'm very loose. I'm very just touch up. I just go in and play with it and stuff. And you should actually do that sometimes. I try to make paintings that are very clear and you can understand what I'm doing. But there was a guy actually who said to me on Facebook that he liked my paintings, but it wasn't something for him because my paintings was too clear. And I went into his profile and looked at first of all, it wasn't that much good a painter, so I don't really know what he was talking about, but because he still hadn't understood, gone beyond. Okay, the first thing people do when they start painting is that they try to repeat a motif. But they usually don't have any understanding that you have to differentiate the different objects in a painting, like skin, clothes, background, foreground, and you have to use different pressures on your brush. You have to use different colors. You have to use different layers of maybe in the background you want to keep it all the way down. If in the background there are very bright light, you want to pull that out. You want to add more texture in it. But in the places you are going to be far away, you will actually almost have no texture at all. Then you want the foreground. You want that to be basically almost like a sculpture. But then you can't use the same texture all over, or the same directions in the brushwork and stuff like that. You have to kind of turn and twist and almost like clay to get it to feel a little bit natural. See here, I'm actually painting the shadow on top of wet paint, so I'm painting wet in wet. It's a very effective way to paint actually, and after a while it can become a little bit sticky, so you can actually do that. I'm gonna have some coffee in there and drink a lot of coffee. Anyway, back to that guy. He didn't understand basic textures and stuff like that, and he said my paintings were too clear for him. And anyone who had seen my paintings I always told, oh, they look like photos. Well, there are two reasons for that. I'm a figurative painter, and usually I paint from art photo. Not when it comes to the most of my still lifes are doing on freehand, and I do some model work, but I haven't had much time for it for last years, and usually if I had a girlfriend or something, I used her as a model. I haven't had that for a long time because I kind of burned myself out when it came to the girl thing. It takes a toll on you to always it's a long story. Anyway, I took a break, and since I have been working with so much photo thing and so many ideas around that, I haven't really bothered having a model and stuff. I wanted that to change now, because I know how much better you become when you actually do use models. I'm gonna start up new self-portraits and stuff, so I use myself as a model. See what happens. Anyway, this guy said that my paintings were too clear, but when you go into my paintings, especially the one that I use as the first video on my YouTube channel, the girl with the tattoos, if you go into the textures and you see when I show you the painting, it's really not clear. It's just a web of thick brushwork crossing into one another, almost like a carpet, a knitted carpet. It's just a lot of choices, a lot of brushwork. It's not that clear. It's not like this German guy. What is his name? I'm gonna find my phone here and see what his name is. Just wait a second. This German guy, he is a super photorealist. I've actually seen a few people who does basically the same thing. He is making these huge paintings and they are super detailed. And it's extremely impressive actually, because the enormous amount of focus he needs to have to do that work is just amazing. I'm gonna see if I can find him on Instagram so I can actually tell you his name. This amazing guy. He must be. He must really be. What do you call it when they have this disorder that make people focused? I can't really remember her name right now. Autism, some kind of autism. I would almost, almost believe. Is it not kind of autism like he has been? He can't focus at all, but you know what I mean. Why can't I find? Oh, yeah, I'm on the wrong Instagram. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can now find this. I think it's so important to talk about this guy. I actually wondered if I was going to take one of his paintings and paint them my way, just to see the difference as a part of that that one of the exhibition that I said to you just now, Art of Painting. But I will see. I have so much I want to do. You have no idea. I really need to live for 1,000 years if I'm going to be even close to be able to finish the work I want to do in this lifetime. So it's so annoying to think about. My neighbor is starting to make noise again. You see, where the hell did he go? Yeah, there he is. Philip Weber art. His name is Philip Weber. His name is Philip Weber. He is making the most amazing photorealist paintings imaginable. It is just mind-boggling the focus he needs to have to do these things. But there is one thing that he does that I'm sure he does that I don't like at all, and that is that he's using a projector, and that is, in my view, cheating. I wish he didn't. If he didn't do that, it would be basically inhuman. It shouldn't be possible. But it is possible. But despite that, he's doing such a great job with all the textures and all the details that I take my hat off. If I used a hat, I will take my hat off. And it is just amazing. So if I if I can, with my painting style, it is almost like Vermeer on steroids in a way. Just that Vermeer was way more a painter than this guy. This guy is even hard to tell. His name is as I said, Philippe Weber, and I would urge you to go check out his work. It's really, really, really amazing. I wondered actually if I'm going to make just a sit-down video where I talk about these paintings, or just make maybe a video like this with an audio voiceover where I talk about his work, because it is just so amazing. Anyway, as you can see here now in my painting, back to that, I have gotten further, and I'm starting to mold smaller details. I am then doing wet and wet, and now you can see I'm starting to move things. It is very thick colors here, so I have to be careful, because what can happen if you paint too many times over. And here you see in the windows there, I just did what I was talking about. I did actually take away some of the textures so that the walls and the things around it get more texture, so that falls into more into the shadows and stuff. And if you see that that thing that in Norway we call it stolpe, that thing with a cross there, lights, yeah, with the lights on, probably in the nighttime. What do you call it? What is it called? With the lights in there. Anyway, yeah, you see the shadow is sent into the wall down there. So, well, there too, where I don't give the dark there any texture, I build the texture around it. I build the brush work around it, so I get a sculptural effect in the painting. Just needed some coffee. And that is what you see in Rembrandt's paintings, and you see in all the classics. There are different periods of art, of course, but you can see in classical painting, you can actually see it is the same. It is the same effects they use. If you go all the way back to the Sistine Chapel, and maybe even Leonardo da Vinci, when they was painting, they didn't use that much paint. That was maybe because paint was extremely expensive. They didn't have the right science behind it or whatever. Yeah. So that with the more impressionist brushwork came later. I guess it came in there with later Rembrandt and these people. They actually call another hero of mine, which I really appreciate, is Delacroix, Guin Delacroix. I really like his paintings. I actually have a book with all his palettes and how he used them. He used to plan his paintings, and he used maybe a week or two just mixing colors, and he had kind of diagrams where he hung up a piece of paper, and this color is going to be there in the painting, and this color, and then in just a few days he just went crazy and painted up his already planned painting, almost like you get these children's books, drawing books, where you have the numbers, both on the colors and pencils and stuff, and you just fill in. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, don't give that to your children. Give your children a challenge. Just give them a bunch of color pencils or whatever, and just let them have fun. That is what happened to me when I was a child. My father came home. He was a sailor, and when he came home from America, he had all these classical wax pencils, with colors, and I was drawing and painting and doing all kinds of stuff. You could also dissolve them in turp and stuff. So it was really, really. Nobody told me what to do. Nobody said, "Oh, you have to paint the flower this way, or you have to do it like this and that." You just give the kids the tools, and they figure it out for themselves. So, yeah. You see I added more detail. Now I'm kind of pushing it down again. It's kind of quite nice actually to see how I evolved this one, because it's so unlike me. I actually had a small series of paintings like that on that exhibition. I knew I couldn't go that deep into detail, didn't have time, so I just chose to, okay, let me try to make a bunch of Impressionist paintings. That was quite small. Sadly, I wasn't making much video back then, so I didn't actually understand that I could actually basically, if I knew that it becomes so popular on YouTube for people, there are people who actually earns a nice living just from YouTube, and I didn't use that opportunity, and the channel I had, as I said, was hacked, so I had to start all over again. So that's sad, but you know, there's so many paintings I've done that I wish I actually made videos from, because yeah, but that's how it is, you know. It's also a very good way to document my work and help other people to become better painters and stuff. And when people tell me they get inspired by my, it's really rewarding. It's more rewarding than you can actually imagine. Now this first segment is now coming to an end, and I will make another segment that lasts just as long. And sorry I don't talk about painting all the time, but maybe you find it interesting that I actually try to also talk about other things related to painting. Anyway, yeah, I'm adding in, you see the yellow I also put in, and there's some bluish and violet around it. That is also, I used the Impressionist way to do this, but now this is coming to an end, and I will start up the next segment on how I mix the colors into one another. So stay tuned, and I see you in the next segment, hopefully. Okay, welcome back to segment number 2. As I was talking about in the last segment, you can see on the wall there that actually there's some yellowish, and there are violet, and there are green, and there are reds, and there are more yellow, and then as you can see I basically build it totally in an Impressionist way. It is basically the rainbow. Now there are things people don't understand, and that one of them is the shadow colors. We call it tertiaire. We have the color circle, the primary colors, and you have the secondary colors. The secondary colors is actually the shadow colors, and people don't know this, and this was one of the first things I understood, that if you have say you have green and red beside one another, the shadow color will be a mix of these two colors. Usually if you have a shadow color to red, that shadow color will be a mix between the red and the green, but the mix will be towards the green, and the other way, it will be a mix towards the green. Well, no, the red, I mean. The red plus the same green breaks down the red, but keep it kind of red anyway. And when that color hits the surface or whatever, it creates a natural shadow. You can actually study this in clouds. I think clouds are the best place, and white walls, or walls, even no matter walls it is, and of course it depends on which time of day it is, because when the sun is on its peak there are very few shadows and stuff, but you can actually see how if a shadow hits a wall that has sunlight on it, it will usually be, the shadow will be kind of in a bluish region, depending on the color in the white or the color on the wall. If you have a white wall, I can basically guarantee you that the color on that wall in the sunlight will be in the reddish, orange, yellowish, probably orange-ish tone. And then, of course, the shadow will be in the blue, violet, pink, not pink, but violet or bluish, or maybe even green if it's late in the evening. Because then, of course, the length of the light is longer and you get more warmth into the light. And when that sunlight hits the wall, it will be warmer, more reddish, and therefore the shadow will more and more turn into the green zone. And when you have understood, if you start studying nature, you really get into studying nature and you start seeing these things. I remember back in the day when I had this great teacher in a drawing school called Sissel Kobostad. She was also a good friend, and she taught me the color circles, and I didn't see it in the beginning, but when I saw it, what happened was that the whole world just exploded in color. It wasn't black and white, or white, the clouds are white, and you know, I could actually see, of course, the brutal colors. You could see the colors in the evening, the difference. But if I was going to have painted a cloud back before I knew these things, I'd probably paint a cloud white, like people do. And I would have mixed some black and some stuff into the white and created some shadows, maybe with some colors in it. But I wouldn't have had an understanding of what the hell was going on. So the whole surface would just fall apart and feel dead. And when you realize that the whole spectre is in every single surface, and you can actually start seeing it, it becomes so clear. The whole thing just explodes in color. Suddenly I just saw color. And it kind of sounds crazy, but that is how it is. And I'm trying to explain to her, see, look at that wall over there. What color is it? And they say, what color? It's just white. No. What color is it in the shadow there? Do you see that there is orange? What color is in the shadow? Look at the shadow. What color do you see? And they just can't see it. But suddenly they just, maybe it is gray. No, there's no such thing as gray. Gray doesn't exist. There is no such thing as gray. And there is no such thing as black. And there also no such thing as white. There's only color. And when I then start asking again, I'm kind of pushing them, they actually start to kind of see it, because I make them notice the colors in the objects. And that is how you basically turn into an impressionist. That is what the Impressionists so well understood. They didn't just casually throw in a lot of yellows and a lot of greens and a lot of red. No, they actually saw these colors in nature. They actually saw them. And the more you notice, the more these colors just explodes right in your face. And it's really a great experience. Now they say when it comes to Van Gogh, he probably had because he saw so very bright colors. They actually think he had some kind of micro seizures. These what do you call when you shake? Well, I can't remember the word in English right now. Micro seizures in his brain. So he didn't fall down and shaking and stuff like that, but he has these micro seizures. And if you have that, you actually partition the colors up in your brain. Oh shit, sorry. I actually grabbed a prism I had now, because this prism actually does the same thing that he would have seen when he had the seizures. If you have a prism, I have an old prism from one of these old lighthouses, which sends out light into the sea. So I have one prism, and when I see that, it kind of just cuts up all the colors into the red and the yellow and the green and the blue, and basically I see the whole room. When I see it through this prism, I see the whole room basically in the rainbow colors. And that is what happens if you have these micro seizures. And that is probably why he painted so extreme colors in his paintings. Now, if you see the best paintings of Van Gogh in a museum, they are just amazing. They are just so amazing. If you see them in books, forget it. You don't. I will say you miss basically 60 to 70% of the painting by seeing, not more, probably way more. I suffer from that too in my paintings because I use a lot of color. Even when I film my colors, I can't really get them right because the camera just doesn't pick it up. And people tell me that my paintings are so much better in reality than you see on the videos and the photos, because they are so much richer in both color and texture and how they are built. And that is a good thing, but it's a sad thing that I of course can't get them shown in a good way online. But I mean, it's better than nothing. I mean, usually back in the day, they could never show paintings online or in any other form because they didn't even have photographs to take of them. So I mean, you had to see them in real life. Yeah. You see, I kind of rock the boat a little bit. I nod my head because I had that music. I'm gonna post that original file in description so you can actually see it with the music instead if you bother. It's kind of loud music, so I kind of understand why people wouldn't watch that too much. Anyway, and there's another painting of an Impressionist painter, and that is of course Edvard Munch. A lot of people talk about Edvard Munch as it is, and they talk about the Scream and stuff like that. But that painting does nothing for me, because there is no skill there. There's no paintedness. There's no. I really just think it's a lump of, yeah. Well, I have no idea why that Scream is hyped up. It's, Edvard Munch drank himself to delirium, and so did of course Van Gogh and many other artists, and he got delirium and he got psychotic, and therefore he painted this painting. And then he realized he could earn some money of it, so he painted a lot of different versions of it later, which of course was it wasn't psychotic anymore, so why repeat it? I mean, you can't repeat something that you do in a psychosis when you are, you're not psychotic anymore. Well, the best paintings, I will say the best painting of Edvard Munch is Sick Child. And that is a painting he painted when he was younger, like in his 30s or something like that. I don't really remember it right now, but I'm going to do a rendition of that painting. And I remember the first time I saw Sick Child of Munch, I just didn't understand it. I wasn't, because it's just a whole bunch of brushwork and knives, and has used all kinds of tools in that painting, but I wasn't able to understand what he actually had been doing. I didn't have the empathy and the capability of understanding, and that was back in 1989, because I went to this drawing school, or kind of a preschool for art school, and when I saw Sick Child, I just it just graps. I call it graps. Maybe you can say it. It's almost like you take a shovel into the earth and you just carve everything up. That is how I saw that painting back then. I wasn't able to empathize with the brushwork and see the fight and the beauty of it and stuff like that. And that is strange, because that capability comes to you as you evolve your emotions and evolve. I will say that is empathy. When you can look at a painting or listen to music and you can actually understand how the composer or the painter was thinking. Like when I listen to Rachmaninoff's piano concertos, I can actually understand a little bit how he was thinking and why it came out that way, and how he plays around with cliché and chaos and brings you from one point to another. And it's basically, if you translate that into painting, that is exactly what a painting should do. It should send you into beautiful paintedness, kind of the kind of more clean painting, and then you build up to this storm. As what was his name? There was this author. I love the silence before the storm. It's just like Beethoven, you know. What's his name? He was playing Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. This is I think it was in Leon. Yeah, it was in Leon, the movie Leon. What is his name again? Gary Oldman, yeah. He's also a brilliant piano player. He played Beethoven in a piano movie about Beethoven back in 1991. And there was this girl that went to art school with me that took me to this movie, and I came out and I just, since I saw that movie, I have wanted to start playing the piano. It's just hit me like a plane, freight train, or whatever you call it in English. But I never done anything about it, and it's over 30 years ago now, and it's almost ridiculous, but hopefully I will live for another 50 years or something, and I can use my old age to sit there and write my memoirs and teach myself to learn to play the piano and paint my paintings. That is my hope for the future. Sadly, I've seen young people die, friends and people I knew very well die young from diseases and from heart attack and alcoholism and drug addiction and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you want to live a long life, you have to take care of your body, and that is just how it is. You can't hope that you're going to lead a long life if you don't take care of yourself. And even if you take care of yourself, you can be just unlucky. You can be one of the few people that do everything right, and you get lung cancer after all, and then you fucking die. So memento mori, as they say in Stoic philosophy. You have to seize the day, and but you also have to acknowledge your own death, and just as they say, amor fati. They say, embrace your faith. So if something bad happens to you, you just have to embrace it and see it as a part of life. Because there's one thing that is sure, at least for me as an atheist, a non-believer, I will die and it will be the end. It will be the end. And that is a sad thing that you have to deal with as a realist. But before that, before this pointless, meaningless existence is over, I'm going to try to use it to do something good. I will try to leave the world a little bit better than before I came into it. So, and this is also one of the reasons why you should actually do some artwork or try to help other people or be a force for good in the world. You know, don't be a petty, narcissistic ass, but try to be the best person that you can and help other people become the best they can. Because there are more bad shit in the world to go around, and there are more bad shit in the world than good. Most people, in my opinion, are not good. And they are just hiding behind something we call normality. But we can see it in all of history. When you come to some extreme situation, the evilness is just coming into existence in so fast that is really scary. And we are surrounded with people who would steal your girlfriend. You can have a good friend and suddenly they just stab you in the heart. It's actually never happened to me because for some reason the girls I've been with have been very, very, dedicated to me. And the problem was I wasn't really emotionally enough dedicated to them, and that is a sad fact. I didn't treat anyone badly. Not since I was in the beginning of 20s. Before I actually woke up and got my introspection, I was a womanizer. I was. I love women now too, but I was basically sex addicted, I think. So I couldn't possibly give much of myself to any particular girl. And that was also a total digression. You see what I mean? It has to do with how you evolve as a person. And as you evolve as a person and become honest and humble, but not paralyzed. There's a difference between being humble and paralyzed. There's a difference between being nice and weak. You mustn't be weak. A weak person isn't nice. A weak person is just nice because he can't do anything else. And it's not really nice because you can't really trust him because he's just showing himself as this good person because he's too weak to actually stand up for himself. So I mean, as Jordan Peterson do say in his lectures, weak person, you can't. Weakness is make people, or niceness or weakness makes people actually dangerous, because you never really know what they will do in an extreme situation. I mean, you should acknowledge the evil in yourself and battle it, and so when you come into a situation where this thing tries to pop out of you, you have a capability of stopping yourself and or use it if you have to. I mean, I could kill in self-defense without whining about it afterwards. I'm very sure I could do that. But if you gave me all the money and the power in the world and all the good-looking freckled redheads with big butts, I wouldn't kill a single innocent person to gain anything for myself. So I know what I'm capable of, and one of the reasons I actually know what I'm capable of is I have been willing to go deep into evil and study history and study the worst of the worst and also study the best of the best. There is such a that is a strange thing about humanity, is that when we are at the best, we are better than the gods, because the gods are crazy. You know, you can see all religions, the gods are just vengeful and crazy and horrible. But I mean, we are unbelievably beautiful at the best. And it is a sad fact that at the worst we are just hyenas with a big brain. We are willing to carve out we are willing to bite into people and watch them bleed to death just to pick up what's left, you know, for our own benefit. And then you have other people that are willing to sacrifice their life to save other people, like Doctors Without Borders and people who do great philanthropic work and stuff like that, who unselfishly do that. And you have the child molester and the rapist and the murderers and the MS-13s of the world, and all these people who are just destroying everything they come into contact with. And then you have the great arts, the beautiful music and the beautiful people who made all this beauty, and you have the scientists, and you have the greatness is so profound, but the evilness is boundless. And it is just shocking to see. And but when you face all this evil and you face all the good, you start to connect with yourself. You start to see yourself. You start to understand what you are capable of. And actually, it will enhance your capability of deep introspection, of empathy, of sympathy. That is probably even more important than empathy, because empathy can lead people astray. Empathy is the thing that can make people fall in love with stray cats and animals, but don't care about people. You have those people who are insane, like many of the vegans and these people who are just insanely occupied with animal suffering, but they are not able to connect with people because they are so self-absorbed and narcissistic that they just found this thing that can give them some kind of existential anchor in existence instead of being open. I mean, we should treat animals and living beings in a good way. Personally, I was a child that picked up all the bugs from the water, and I enjoyed seeing them kind of cleaning their wings and fly off. I really enjoyed that. But I had actually a couple of, especially one friend, he sadly is dead now. He basically died of heroin addiction. But he had a childhood that he was beaten up all the time and stuff, and he had so much hate in him, and he took it out on animals, stabbed birds, tried to set cats on fire. He was just crazy when it came to that. But he was also a good person, so in many ways. So it's very sad that he didn't survive. So you can see what abuse can actually do with a child. It's horrible. I wish I could talk about painting all the time here, but I mean, you see what I'm doing. You see here, I just even out now more and more. And I'm working wet in wet here. It's so funny because I know how it feels when I listen to that music. You know, in the original video, it's very loud and noisy because of the bad video recording of the music. But when I put on trance music and I start painting and I go into that deep flow, it is just dance. I'm just free. I'm free from my thoughts. I'm free from my ADHD. I'm free from my hypomania. Or my hypomania is just led right into this thing that I fell so in love with. I remember the first time there was this girl I was with called Heidi, and she put a pen in my hand and said, "Get yourself a hobby," because I was kind of laid off from the shipyard. There wasn't any work to do, so we just wasn't laid off, but we were kind of waiting. We wasn't actually going to work. We got paid actually, but we didn't. Permittert heter det, is the permission or permission, and yeah. Because there wasn't any work to do, and I was just sitting in cafes and drinking coffee and training and stuff, and she said, "Get a hobby." And I started to draw, and I just felt so good. It just focused me so much, and that is how I started painting. That is how I started. When I then got a chance to get a new education, I chose to go into drawing. And I was actually thinking about becoming a commercial drawer, because back then I was kind of a DJ, and I was a womanizer, and you know, I thought that, okay, if I go into commercial stuff, I will meet a lot of interesting girls. I think it was some of the thoughts. I didn't really know what I was going into. If I knew back then that I would sit here, talk like this, it would be so. I don't even know I would have been able to understand what I was talking about. You know, it would be so far off from the person I was back then. I was a kind person. I was a child with a lot of introspection. Then I turned into a demon. Not a demon, but I had narcissistic traits in my teens and early 20s. There's no doubt about that. And my daughter actually had the same process, and she also turned into a very good person when she got out of puberty. And I guess so did I, and that's a very nice thing to see. I guess when you're in your teens, you actually hormones are raging and stuff like that. So it's kind of. I mean, we are here to make babies. That is the whole goal with existence. Actually, that is a sort of strange thing about death too. You know, you are born into this. As Christopher Hitchens did say, another dead hero, we are born into a losing struggle, as shot from a cannon towards a barn door with rusty hooks and old files sticking out of it. And it's just a question what we do with it from that shot from the uterus till we hit this barn door. And that is all. I mean, that is basically it, you know. That's the whole meaning of life. There is no inherent meaning. You just have to create this meaning, and painting has become my drug. I actually was talking to my father, because I'm gonna do a couple of exhibitions now, smaller ones, and I have ambitions what I'm gonna. They say, "Oh, you have been so stressed out and stuff, you won't be able to do this, and it's too much and stuff." And I say, well, if I have extremely high ambitions and I reach like 60 or 70% of it, it's an achievement. But if you're gonna think negative, say, "Oh, I can't do this anymore, I'm too old," then you are too old. Then you are actually dying. And as an artist, as a human being, I can't live off what I once did. I live off the things I'm going to do. I live for the books I'm going to write. I live for the paintings I'm going to do. I live not to get more babies or the new girlfriend or winning the lottery, not lottery, buying new watches or or stuff like that. I just want to engage with my visions of the paintings I want to see finished before I go. And that's the whole thing, you know. You see here now, I actually did a little bit too much black in that shadow. I started to do details that I actually saw in the photo, in the shadow there. And it became a little bit too hard, so I lost some of the sublimeness in that shadow. Maybe, I'm not sure if maybe I'm evening it out again. I probably will do that, because I would be surprised if I don't actually. But maybe I did that after the video was over or something like that. I'm not really sure. There's one small segment too that lasts for a couple of minutes where I do more close-up work, which is soon coming up. So you just see. I think this painting turned out. This is real, in real time. This is not. I haven't stopped and painted on it. This was painted in 1 hour in real time, and a little bit over 1 hour actually. How much was it? Yeah. There, I'm done with that segment, and in the next segment I will go get a little closer, and you can see actually more. I just do some brushwork with it and stuff, so we can actually show you the painting a little bit closer, so you can actually see it. As you can see, I wasn't good at making videos back then, but you get the point anyway. So anyway, next segment coming up. They've just lost a couple of minutes, so there was the photo, and yeah, okay. Okay, here we are, last segment, and I'm just gonna do some funny, I didn't actually even out that shadow in that thing, the light thing. It kind of surprises me a little bit that I didn't, because it, but then again, maybe it is like that on a photo, or maybe I saw it in a different way. As you see here, I'm just loosely adding in some more colors. I basically do as you see here, you can see boom, 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 and I add just some more textures and stuff. There's some yellow there over the bluish, and just adding more light basically by adding more yellowish over that bluish. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, and go to Patreon, sign up for $5 and give a thumbs up and leave a comment, and I hope to see you in the next video.